This is the old Doctor Who show, episode number 95, Curse of Peladon.
Go forward in all your beliefs and prove to me that I am not mistaken in mine. You couldn't control my mind before, and you certainly can't control it now.
Would you like a jelly, baby?
The TARDIS, when working properly, is capable of many amazing things.
Reverse the polarity of the neutron flows, and the TARDIS will be free of the force field now.
Well, the TARDIS is more than a machine. It's like a person, you see.
Resulting reaction, describe it. Are you ready?
Welcome back to the old Doctor Who show, your tri-weekly classic Doctor Who review podcast. We are back in the recording booth. My name, for those that are not aware of my voice, is Eric, and I'm joined as always by...
I'm Dan. He couldn't remember my name, so...
We're pretty much done.
That's it.
The world's on fire, so let's talk about kid shows from the 70s.
Yeah.
72, actually. Yeah, Dan, so things are not well.
No. We were going to do an Instagram Live today, just because, why not? For us, it's no more work, so might as well have a little interaction. But then, many American cities are on fire as of last night, and neither of us really felt like we wanted to do that.
Right, but so
record a live stream. So
didn't seem like a good idea.
We're
I don't know what to say.
So we're both. Neither of us are in. Let's just put this out there right now. Neither of us are in the best headspaces to do this.
No, and I'm having. I feel like I'm having trouble breathing, and I don't know if I'm getting sick. So there's all sorts of things, all mixed in this soup. But you don't want to hear about that. You want to forget about all of that, and we're here as the magical elixir. To take you out of the current hellscape and put you in another hellscape designed by British people. That's where we're going to go. So let's hit that button.
Okay.
And take us to... where were we? Where does the story take place? Peladon. Yes, so hit the button and take us to Peladon, Dan.
Let's do it.
Low energy. This is definitely our lowest energy show today.
Well, I must say you seem quite partial to all of the Venusian lullabies, don't you, Ecuador, old chap?
This is the Curse of Peladon, Dan. This is the second serial from season number 9, lucky number 9. This is from 1972. Yes, so Dan's also, if this was a video podcast, Dan is holding up his fingers to the digits of what I'm saying for any hearing impaired listeners. Which we are actually the number one ranked podcast for the hearing impaired. A lot of people don't realize that. The Curse of Peladon. Well, what's this story about, you might ask yourself? Well, on the planet of Peladon, a young king named Peladon, no relation, is about to join the Galactic Federation, but he's torn between two opposing viewpoints, one of which from his high priest Hepish, who wants no part of it, and Torbis, a chancellor who rocks a similar look. So he's got a certain style similar to Hepish. Torbis was always trying to get on Hepish's good side, but that was not a lunch table he was allowed to sit at. Unfortunately, it's curtains for poor Torbis because he heads right for the grave early. It's how many lines of dialogue do I have? Not a lot, friend, because you are out of this. This is a show about Hepish and his mute man-killer. And they are going to weave an intricate web of deceit that uses an ancient religious belief in some kind of monster that is going to make Peladon great again. Dan, what did you think of the Peladon and its curses? Oh, written by Brian Hales. Hales. And Lenny, how's your daddy, Maine?
Lenny Brian Maine. Hales of Ice Warriors, Seeds of Death.
Sure. We have some Ice Warriors in this, so that all adds up.
That's pretty cool. What did I think of this one? I thought it was fun. It was... I like the setting was pretty cool. I love this Doctor and Joe. The relationship between the two of them is one of my... I keep saying this about different companion Doctor pairings, but I really like this pairing a lot. We get this little information. So we're as we're jumping around, we're not seeing these things in order at all. But this is the first episode of the new season, and they're taking a test flight in the TARDIS, which is kind of cool. So we get to see Pertwee finally leave the Earth. He's with Joe, and she got all gussied up for a date with Yates, which is kind of nice. So we get this continuing story going along with the two of them. Getting marooned on this planet with the atmosphere of the thunder and the rolling clouds, and on a craggy hilltop. Like, the Gothic setting was very cool. I enjoyed that a lot. I really love secret passages, so this had it in spades. Secret passages is one of my favorite things.
Underground secret passages.
You guys want to get me one? So overall it was cool. The political intrigue was fun. Getting to see a couple different races in this galactic federation, no relation, was kind of cool. Overall, it was pretty interesting. The creature design across the board feels very much in the
kind of a mixed bag. Creature design, I think.
But it feels like, when you think of cheesy special effects and creature effects, like, this is probably one that you really ought to keep in mind, because it really is.
Particularly the Alpha Centauri
with the 6 arms that were all attached
costume and the giant single eye, I believe.
Yeah. I didn't know what it was at first. I didn't know that was an eye. I thought it was... I had no idea until you got it close up.
The weird head in the jar with the liquid spurting, occasionally spurted out of it.
Yeah. Kind of cool, kind of weird. I like that there's something a little different going on there. Then the actual... The creature itself, of myth and legend on the planet, ends up just being a big horned dog, which is kind of like.
But you got to see the Doctor do like that.
Hypnotism.
Was it like it sounded like the Clancy brothers singing some lullaby? Like that was my
Venusian.
favorite. That was my favorite part. I could listen to actually a whole album of Pertwee sings.
The Doctor sings Venusian lullabies.
Yeah, exactly. That would have been great.
So that's generally what I thought about it. Eric, what did you think of this story?
Well, Dan, I actually really enjoyed this story. I felt it was like a good, better than average, enjoyable romp for parters. It was the perfect length. I like the Agatha Christie whodunit, murder part of it, although that wasn't the best part of the story, because I think it was kind of like hinted at, and it was sort of like this idea, but then it was like they didn't really follow through as much as on some of these other Agatha Christie Doctor Who stories we did. But I did like all the backstabbing or the not so much backstabbing, but like the political angle of it. And I thought Heppish was great. I thought the actor that played him was great. I really bought all his stuff. His mute manservant / King's champion. He was a little much. I think he was trying hard, but it was a little silly. I thought the King, Peladon, was an interesting character because he was such a weak king. Yes. That it made it sort of like, these people are completely doomed. This guy has no idea. He has no way of even making his own mind up. Like, there's so many scenes with like him and Joe, and he can't even understand how to separate himself from like whatever the things he has to do. I liked the fact that there was all those different species, as you mentioned. So even though some of the costumes were weird, I very much liked the Ice Warriors, who I think we did an Ice Warriors story before with something, or did they appear somewhere else? Who knows? I like that the Doctor did not trust the Ice Warriors, and he was sort of stubborn about it. And you find out that they are actually good, and because the doctor spared his life, that therefore they were gonna go after his. And I like how they went against their nature, and they were now peaceful and everything. And it was like the doctor was like, okay, well, sometimes it's so even the doctor has to let go of some of his prejudices.
Yeah,
and I liked how that all played out, and that was cool. And what else? I don't know. It's fun. It was a fun romp. As I said.
like that you mentioned the Agatha Christie side of it, because I did think at one point they were going to do a whole and then there was none sort of thing. I really expected them to not. You can't say 10 Little Indians anymore because that was the name of
that. Actually, the original name was not even 10 Little Indians, and I don't want to say what it was.
No,
but if
was
you
it
go
really?
on Wikipedia,
it was worse than that.
It was far more racist, or at least another version. That's on you now to look that up because I will not be
Let's
saying
not do
anymore.
That. Anyway, so I was expecting that to happen. People slipping in and out of passageways and dropping the statue on top of and almost killing everyone, but then planting evidence. And I really just thought it was going to go down that path a little bit more, but I liked what they did with it. The Gothic setting must have been right up your alley because that really is.
Yeah, like the rain and the castle and those low angle establishing shots of it.
Yeah.
But the way that you found out that the head in a jar alien with the spraying, you didn't no one solved that crime. He just decided that when the doctor was doing his Star Trek fighting in the pit, he just was going to shoot him, and then they shot him, and they were like, oh, he's working with there was no, and sort of the Ice Warrior guy was like, yeah, that's where my head was going, and I think Joe Grant said something along the lines, but it wasn't
no one
wasn't
solved
the doctor
anything.
was like, aha, you did this and in this room. So that part was missing.
No, Hercule Poirot going on there. That would have been nice to see. So speaking of the fight scene, that was actually it was well choreographed for the era of the fight scenes. I just find it funny every time they tried to do a Pertwee as action hero. He does it in so many different stories where he's chasing after the bad guy. He does the karate. This time he's in full on in the middle of a battle arena, fighting this guy. It was. I just find that really amusing when they try to pull that off. But I think the choreography for that was pretty cool. The fact that the pit actually looked like it was. I don't know how they shot it or what space they shot it in because it was.
Yeah, that was cool.
30 feet down below, and you're looking at them doing this fight scene. It was pretty fun. So that was cool. I did expect the doctor to actually kill him in the net for some reason. It looked like
you thought he was going full on.
It really looked like he was going to do it.
Bloodlust in his
eyes. Exactly.
Yeah, that scene was kind of weird though because he puts his head through and then he's like, yeah, but the guy could have just came out and still kept fighting. It wasn't like he hit his head against a rock or anything. It was just in a net, and then he didn't really choke him.
Right.
It's all fine. I thought Joe Grant, you mentioned her and the doctor being a good relationship. This was one of my favorite stories of hers. Mm-hmm. I thought she was a ton of fun. And I think when we first started doing her, I wasn't really sure whether I liked her. But now I actually really like her. I thought she's sort of a really good companion. Yeah. And I like the way that they write her. And she's got that whole Nancy Drew part of her, where she's the one, they're in that chamber and she's no one notices her go behind the curtain to find the clue or whatever. All that stuff is good. Yeah. But one thing that is sort of a little strange is in the beginning you mentioned she's dressed up to go on a date with
Yates,
or the other one.
Yates Benton? No, it was Yates.
It was Yates. So she's going to go on. So, but if you real world this a little bit. Can you imagine if you were going to go on a date with someone and you're hanging out with someone and they just won't let you go? It's just let her go on the date and then you could go on this adventure.
Right.
How irritating must that be for her that she's gotten dressed and she's ready to go? He's like, nah, we're gonna do this. Although at the end, don't they sort of establish that maybe they don't have control of the TARDIS and they don't know where they're going to end up next?
Right.
Is he purposely? I mean,
they
mentioned that
Time Lords.
They say the Time Lords did this to them, But in the beginning, you sort of got the sense that the Doctor was just doing what he wants and he's having fun with her, and she just wants to go on this date. And then at the end, it was more, okay, they don't have control over the TARDIS. The Time Lords are dictating where they go.
Right. Yeah,
It
is. You're right. I think it is strange. It is very much in the Doctor's character to say, like, no, this is an important thing.
Yeah, no, it works.
I've been working on this forever. Come share this thing with me. We're just going to do a quick test flight, and you'll be back 5 minutes. We'll go someplace, and you go back and go see Yates.
Yeah.
It works.
Right, it works.
But,
and you shouldn't be putting the Doctor in the real world. That's crazy talk.
Why would you even think about that?
What else? I mean, I liked... there's very little I didn't like about it. Really, I mean, when I think about it, I felt like the Alpha Centauri voice was a little much, at times, because it's very high pitched. But
on top of everything else, with the costume and the characterization and the arms and everything, they could have just taken that one piece out and just let it speak in a less irritating tone.
Dial it down a lot better. Yeah, just a little bit. But at least it gave like a whole bunch of different feels to all of the different planet members of this Federation. Yes. Now, speaking of the Federation, so we don't know why the humans don't show up until the end, that angry woman.
Right.
But it's very lucky. I mean, I guess if the Time Lords are intervening here, and they're purposely sending the Doctor here to right whatever wrong that is happening, which is a secret deal to sell minerals to the people... Whatever that is.
Yeah.
It was, it's enough for the Time Lords to interfere, but whatever. So I'm assuming the Time Lords delayed the human
or
representative, or it's just coincidence that she happened to be delayed for the Doctor to get there first.
Or it was partially because the Earth delegate arrived late, that all the sequence events that would have happened were precipitated, but having the Doctor there could have fixed that. I don't know. Yeah,
I don't know.
I mean, it's unclear to even know, like, were the Time Lords even intervening at all, which is interesting.
I have to assume they are, just because he says they are. I mean, right. Could certainly be wrong, but
no, I agree with that. I think it's interesting in that all the other stories, especially in later Who that we see, it's the TARDIS has a mind of its own, and it goes where it needs to be, as opposed to being controlled by an outside force. So it's interesting to see, like, the Time Lords might be sending them where they need to go, where they want them to go, as opposed to later where we see, like, the TARDIS just takes them where it thinks. It's that weird relationship. Yeah, I don't know.
The weakest part of the whole thing is, and I think you mentioned this already, was the monster, right? I mean, I feel like Agrador. It was okay, and I like the Doctor singing to Agrador and all of that stuff. But it just looked a little.
It looked like a guy in a fursuit. Like it
was like Snuffleupagus gone evil, but a smaller Snuffleup, like
Snuffy. Yeah.
It looked like baby Godzilla to Godzilla. I was expecting Godzilla, and we got baby Godzilla, and I know there's baby Godzilla fans, but it's kind of silly looking.
Baby Godzilla. Yeah, want the real thing. Yeah, I mean, the fact that it kind of ended up being like a puppy dog following the Doctor around was cute. Because they had been building that up.
Heppish at the end.
Yeah.
And everyone's fine. Everything's fine with it.
No one minded that.
Speaking of the king, for his coronation, is he wearing like thigh-high stockings? Or
I think he was going commando under that little skirt.
Yeah, because there's you can see like high boots or something, and then there's a lot of flesh.
A lot of flesh. An uncomfortable amount of flesh.
Very interesting outfit for that guy.
Well,
and I didn't buy their love either. That was I guess that was a weak element I should point out. I didn't buy it at all.
It was so one-sided at first that the king would just fall in love with Jo. I mean, she's charming, and like he says, he doesn't get to see beauty or whatever, so he was just all horned up and was like, okay, this is my new wife. So there's that, and then I don't see why that would be reciprocated by Jo so easily.
No, I mean, their only connection is his mother was Earthborn, and then he puts his hand on her and he's like, we are connected. And then later he gets weird and he's like, hey, talk to them on our behalf, and she's like, you're using me.
Right.
But then even at the end they still have their moments.
And she felt conflicted about staying or leaving.
Yeah, it was weird.
I just did that. I didn't see. I didn't feel earned. I don't know how they got to that, but
No.
that's fine.
They had a handful
that actually
of
kind
scenes.
of that diminishes her character a little bit in a way that I don't really like. That
Yeah.
she's. Why would she be wishy-washy like this? She seems like a woman who knows her own mind and wouldn't really be swayed in that way, and doesn't really need it. I don't know. Didn't love that part of it, but
No,
sure.
yeah, and they didn't. There wasn't enough time to really develop it, so I did not buy that they had any feelings towards each other.
Right.
And then it was weird though when they did do that bit where he's like, "Talk to the council on our behalf," and she's like, "You're using me," and then it's hard to read him, and you're like,
Was he actually or not?
Is
Yeah.
he just taking advantage of her and using her? But then because his other decisions don't reflect someone that's that driven. He's
Right.
sort of always looking around and looking to his advisors and unsure what to do. And tradition has completely handcuffed his hands. He's like, they gotta fight to the death because of our religion or whatever.
right.
So, religion's
Very
wrong.
weak.
I mean, I think that's what that's what
That
I
was
got
the
out of
original
this.
working title of the story. So, the fun facts that everyone knows about this, I'm sure, is the actor who played the king.
Oh? I don't know
Is
any fun facts.
That's Patrick Troughton's son.
Oh, I did not know
Yeah.
that. All right.
And apparently this is his third appearance in Doctor Who. The first appearance as a main character in a story. And then he this I didn't know. He came back in New Who. He was
who is
in
he in
the
New Who?
episode Midnight, where David
I
Tennant...
know I saw that, but I don't remember it all
Yeah,
that well. That's the one
that's-
where they're on a
Crystal Planet
train
in the
car or
little
something?
train car. Yeah, he's the older professor guy. There's the professor and his student. So he plays that character, which is kind of cool. So that was kind of interesting that we get that. We get the recurrence of the like you had said before, the Ice Warriors, which is a story we haven't seen yet. But
So they
seeing
weren't
them
in
evolve-
anything, right? They weren't
No,
in...
I know the one you're thinking of, but that wasn't them.
What was the one we just watched where they were in cahoots with someone that lived underground or something? It was like one race, and then they were talking to another race underground, and they sort of controlled them. They weren't the Ice Warriors. What were they?
You
Doesn't matter.
do remember that
don't
every
remember
time we
anything.
record a story, I completely forget the story afterwards, so I can watch it again and be like, "Oh, this is new." So who knows?
Okay, it's
Who
fine.
knows?
I don't.
It's fine.
We do not need to
Nope.
derail this.
Expose our ignorance on all of this.
With my ignorance of Doctor Who. Speaking of Doctor Who,
yes.
just gonna
Do it.
This is HBO Max is so far
yes.
great, and all the Doctor Who's, the new Doctor Who's, are all on there,
Except for
minus the last season. But
Right.
the season before it, so I'm assuming that if I wait enough,
yeah,
it'll appear there.
that's great.
Little tip for our listeners.
Did you watch the previous season 11?
Yes, I already
You
seen
you watched all of that.
So
Okay.
the only thing I haven't seen is the very last season. So I'm
same here.
I want to. So
I know there's apparently big stuff that happens, but I have had trouble getting through it. So hopefully, maybe when it's on HBO Max, I think the format of watching it without commercials and straight through is much better, especially in stories that are a little bit like not my cup of tea. So maybe that'll be better later. But that was cool and exciting. Eric, what else do we have going on?
I don't think I have anything else to add to this particular story. We talked about how I really like Joe.
Yeah.
We talked
like
about
the
the
relationship?
Doctor just being very good. And again, this particular Doctor, and that's what I like about Doctor Who, is every Doctor feels unique. They have their own thing. He is 100% the James Bond fighting Doctor. So, of course, there's a octagon, like, death fight in a pit. Right. And he's very good at fighting. Like, he's, like, pretty much is never really on the ropes against the King's Champion. And let's be honest, the King's Champion's not that great. Exactly. So I don't know how good the other warriors are. But, yeah, he's a weird character, the King's Champion. He is sort of like... He's deaf, right? No, he's mute. We don't know if he's deaf. He's very evil because he's working for Hepish, or at least he's just being controlled by Hepish.
He's being controlled, sure, yeah.
He has the turn, and it makes sense because the Doctor spares his life, so therefore he owes him a life debt, and then he turns on Hepish. But it just feels like a weird, like there's nothing to him. He's just like this dumb guy who has that moment where he does fight Hepish and then they knock him out. Is that the last time we see him?
Sure.
When he turns on Hepish?
Sure.
In the and the tunnels. And speaking of the tunnels, let's just jump onto another conversation. The king is not aware that there's tunnels. He was never a kid in this thing.
Right.
And he's
right.
Peladon, but the planet's Peladon.
Right. And they're all Peladonians. Yeah, it is strange. And the number of torches that need to get, like, all over the place. Every torch just kind of gets moved. And you would think after all these years of living in that castle, he would have noticed.
Yeah, like, just bump into one. And he's got no idea they even exist.
Yeah.
Which
like he thinks they're lying. Yeah. Which seemed like it would have been a really easy way for them to prove that there was something going on with Hepish, because he's denying that there are even these tunnels, and the doctor's like, no, he gave me a freaking map. I thought that was going to come into play, actually, because Hepish is like, here, you can take, here's a map of how to get out of here, just leave.
While we were talking, we did review Seeds of Death.
Did we? What is Seeds?
Yeah.
Yeah, Seeds of Death, yes, we did. But that
and they're in that.
Are they?
Yes. And that's how I knew them. Remember, that was the one where the main villain was someone else, and then they were in cahoots with the Ice Warriors.
Okay. Hang on, my dog is going nuts. 1 second.
Well, that's quite all right. I don't remember anything other than that about it, but I know I'm not crazy. And then there was we'd seen the Ice Warriors before. They look a little different.
Sure.
Right?
Maybe that's why I don't.
We did Seeds of Death recently. That was part of our Phase 2, I believe, round 2.
Seeds of Death.
It was a Patrick Troughton story.
Oh.
It was in black and white. And then they were dealing with something about the moon.
Right on. Okay.
I don't know. I can hardly remember it, but we did
neither.
it. So there you go.
Did we like it?
Cool. Don't ask me if we liked it. That's why I think we got to do one of those old Doctor Who review books where we just compile all of our reviews as little blurbs, because I don't remember what I liked and what I didn't like at this point.
And it would be really nice to have a book like that, because it would be incomplete, missing probably half of all the stories. That's be really useful for no one.
Dan, really you got nothing else? I mean, I have some stuff to talk about for adding things to our list if we're ready for that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's a whole lot else to talk about in this one. It was very cool. It was a good story. I think we covered all the bases. There wasn't super complex, so yeah.
It was good. And there wasn't anything that was too terrible that you'd want to sort of harp on it, or too amazing that you want to harp on it. Exactly. There was a couple of weird little things in the beginning, like where when the first guy died, the advisor that was like, yeah, we got to join the UN. They like kept doing that thing where he looks up and you pan up and you think it's going to be like a camera or something watching them, but it's just like this little Hepish statue thing. And they do that a couple of times.
Yeah.
I'm glad I shared that, because that observation has no value.
No, but I'm glad you put it out.
Yeah,
I thought the same thing when it happened.
Each
time. I was like,
I was like, look at that.
No.
Is something going to happen with that? No? Okay. No. Fair enough.
All
right, so let me, if you have anything, if you want to, did we get any feedback or stuff on it that I can, that you can read while I get this info?
No, I don't actually think that we did get anything. I didn't really put out a call for feedback on Twitter, because we were going to do an Instagram Live, which we decided to stop at the last second. So if you guys do have feedback on this story, feel free to send it to us at theolddoctorwhoshow@gmail.com or on Twitter, and we'll check that and read it next time. But this one, like we said, not a whole lot going on in this story. So if we want to wrap this up, that's fine with me.
So I think that then I will just jump into the next thing. I had a feeling that we had reviewed Terror of the Zygons. I was convinced that we had done it, and then I also I think we reviewed Planet of Evil. Dan was like, we did none of those things. The files don't exist. So whether this is a Mandela effect type thing that's happening to me and I've moved into a different timeline, possible.
It's most likely that, yeah.
Or it just never happened and I felt like we did. So I put out a thing on our Instagram, which is TODW Show, if you want to follow. whether or not we should review those things, and it was 100% in both directions that people think we should review Terror of the Zygons and Planet of Evil. So, to you now, I asked you, are you fine? I'll just put those on there.
Let's put them in.
We'll do it.
That's fine with me.
We'll just
Sure.
never end this podcast train.
Why would we? Why would we ever want to end
All right.
this? Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah, we'll add those, which means that I
Where
have
do you
to
want
check.
to- yeah.
I have to check out because those stories I think are both Tom Baker stories. So right now we're set to review next Underworld, which is a Tom Baker story. It's possible it won't be Underworld, so I have to put in those other stories. And if one of those stories falls before Underworld, we'll end up doing that Tom Baker story. So it's Tom Baker next time. Whether or not it's Underworld or one of those other two I just mentioned is yet to be determined.
Yeah, we'll update you on Twitter and let you guys know for sure.
Don't you feel like we did Terror of the Zygons at all? No?
Sure.
Okay.
I mean, it's that old
We
thing
did.
of
We absolutely
the
did.
Doctor Who story name generator, where it's like
I know. It's
terror
always seeds of,
death of the
revenge of the...
Yep.
in bed with the whatever. So we have nothing else. We got no feedback, no Twitters, no reviews. Has our show been canceled? And we are not. We are still getting paychecks like $4 million. Hey guys, this is Eric. I'm just popping in, interrupting the feed here because turned out we did get some feedback from some listeners, not about the show, but just in general. And remember the old Doctor Who show promise. I'm going to read whatever you say about our show live and on the air, although it's not neither live nor on the air. So anyway, this comes again from Renegade Comics via Instagram, TODW show. On your Instagrams. He writes, or she writes, I'm assuming it's a he. Does he say a he or she? I don't know. Doesn't matter. They write, always I have loved the show since episode 1. Oh, I like the way that's worded. Always I have loved the show since episode 1. Such a great way to relive the classic stories. Well, thank you very much, Renegade Comics. I'm glad you're listening, and I appreciate the time you took to write us in and let Dan and I know, although Dan won't know because he's not hearing this. He will only hear it later when he's listening to this podcast, which is probably not going to happen because I don't think Dan listens to this podcast. So let's do a little trick here. I'll mention something here. Raspberry. If we hear Dan say raspberry next episode, we know that he actually listens to the show. If he doesn't, then you and I, listener, we know the real deal. Until next time, I'm going to jump out, and then the old Eric and the new current Dan, same Dan, will appear. And that was my son talking over a walkie-talkie. So let's return to the broadcast already in session. All right, I guess that's it. I guess we're just going to call it a day, and which is actually a relief, I think.
Yeah, I think we both kind of
both Dan and I, because
I mean, I definitely wanted to talk about this with you. It's nice to see you, nice to talk to our listeners, but today really wasn't the day for this sort of thing. So
nope,
that's fine with me.
Maybe it helps somebody, you know. That's the way I got to look at it.
Yippers.
Cool.
So until next time, folks, if you want to, like I said, you can get in touch with us at theolddoctorwhoshow@gmail.com, on Twitter at TODW Show, same thing on Instagram. Yes.
Yep.
And you can always leave us a review in your podcasting store of choice, whether that's iTunes or a Google Play Store or Spotify or Stitcher. I think we're all over the
We're
place
on
now. We have all
Stitcher,
those
too.
links on our site, so we're everywhere. So if you want to do that, that would be awesome.
Right, and real life mail can go to P.O. Box 2131, Red Bank, New Jersey, 07701. So if you want to send us a letter.
Or a self-addressed stamped envelope.
Yeah,
you
self-addressed
can get a sticker.
stamped envelopes will get you a Doctor Who show logo sticker in return.
You'll get a big sticker.
Stickers. Who wants stickers, guys? Hey, 2020 is not so bad. I got stickers. And you can put them over your casket. So, ladies and gentlemen, yeah, it's too dark? All right, let's...
Everything's fine.
Everything's fine.
Okay.
All right.
Until next time, everybody.
Goodbye, everyone. We love you.
King of Hoth, a man in clutch. Harun, Harun, Harun. Codello, Shina, Jiri, Natch. Harun, Harun, Harun. Harun, Harun, Harun. Harun, Haram, Harun. Harun, Harun, Harun.
Where's my robot? You know?